Hello, everybody. Welcome to ICC's Game of the Week with your host, as always, Joel Benjamin. Dmitry Andreikin won the Abu Dhabi Masters ahead of 56 other grandmasters. He mixed technical and attacking play, turning on the Jets with 3 wins to close out with a 7.5, 1.5 score. I particularly like his 8th-round win over fellow Russian Anton Demchenko. This game illustrates the dynamics of wing play with a block center, as Andreikin used his space advantage as a springboard to an attack. All right, let's take a look. It's an opening that we haven't really seen on Game of the Week, I believe. Roy Lopez, that's not the part that is unusual about it, but we have seen that from time to time. But Demchenko goes for a modern Steinitz, and that's a6, bishop a4, d6. First of all, what's modern about the modern Steinitz? Well, that's the inclusion of the move a6, because in the original version of the Steinitz, and when we say Steinitz, of course, we're going back to the 19th century. This is very old school. Here, white can just play d4, and the knight can come out to c3, and white can develop very quickly. Doesn't have to spend any time building the center. The idea of the modern Steinitz is that by inserting the move a6, now of course you have to be ready to meet the exchange variation bishop takes c6, but generally speaking, most black players are not that worried about it. And then after bishop a4, d6. Now if white just goes about his business with d4, well, that in itself is not a dubious move, but white is headed for trouble, because black is able to break the pin. And now queen takes d4 is a big blunder, because we have an oldie but goodie Noah's Ark trap. If you know it already, you can just smile along. So black defends the mate and then defends the check, and now the rook on a8 is defended. So when the queen comes back, black can just win the piece with c4. Noah's Ark trap. Called Noah's Ark trap because I guess it's very old. But when it first discovered, I don't know what it was called when it was first discovered, because it wasn't old yet. But of course, in this position, white can play bishop d5 or c3 is a playable move, but not considered to be the best line for white. So if white wants to get d4 right away, he can take first and then d4. But of course, he has to give up the bishop pair with that. So Andreikin just decides to play standard kind of business c3, building the center. White can also castle first. This move over to c3, that allows black to play f5. I think it's called the siesta variation. I'm not sure. I haven't heard it referred to in a long time. It's a very, very sharp line. I don't think it's really such a great thing for black to play, but Demchenko, in any case, plays the more standard conservative method, bishop d7, blocking the pin. And after d4, he plays g6. Now, back in the day, I used to play the modern Steinitz, but we're talking about, circa 1980. And I think the way I used to play it is I'd play knight f6. And if white would defend the pawn, then I would go queen e7 to defend my pawn on e5, and then follow up with the fianchetto. So this is one way black can do it. Also, a completely different plan is black can put the knight on e7, and by doing this without g6, one of the ideas is the knight will come to g6, and then bishop e7 and castles. And in that way, black will have e5 quite well protected, but of course you won't have any pressure on e4.